This happened to me when I was 13 years old. My parents left me in the house alone because they figured that I was old enough to look after myself. My parents went out for their anniversary and they left me money to buy me some pizza in case I get hungry. As I was staying in the house by myself playing video games, I heard a bump at my window. I thought for a second it was my parents, maybe telling me to open the door because they forgot the keys. But when I looked out there, I was met with a horrifying sight. It was somebody that I didn't know. It was a man holding a large knife, wearing a demon mask. I'm not even joking. I freaked out and jumped away from the window. Before I can even think about what I should do, I heard the man trying to open the front door. He was jiggling the doorknob. I could tell he was really trying to get in. I quickly made my way upstairs. As I was running upstairs, I heard the door opening. He must have broken the lock or something. I didn't know. But I ran upstairs into my room and I locked my door. I waited to see what I should do next. I thought I should call 911, but the nearest phone was downstairs. Just as I was thinking about figuring out how I can get to that phone, I heard footsteps in the house, and then I heard them coming upstairs. And once they were upstairs, I heard those footsteps coming towards my room. Eventually, the footsteps stopped outside of my room door. Then I heard the doorknob of my room door jiggling. Eventually, I knew he was gonna break open the door and come in, and there was no telling what he was gonna do to me. I stayed calm and figured out what I should do. The only hope for survival, I thought at the time, was jumping out the window. Even though the house was 2 stories, it wasn't that far of a jump. So I went towards my window and I opened it up. I went out the window and I stood on top of the roof. Just as I was getting ready to jump, my room door busted open and I saw the man running towards me. I had no time to think. It was either fly or flight mode. So I jumped out the window. Luckily, I landed on my feet. Then I ran towards my neighbor's house and asked him to call 911 because there was an intruder in my house. He did, and he told me to stay with him. 5 minutes had passed and a bunch of police officers arrived at my house. My parents also came as well. The officers went in the house and luckily they caught the guy. They arrested him and it turned out to be a 52-year-old man wanted for the murder of 3 other innocent children. I'm just thankful I was able to have enough courage to jump out the window and to go get help. Because had I not done that, I would have ended up being his 4th victim. After the guy was arrested and the cops left, my parents hugged me real tight and told me that I made a very good choice. And they're so glad that I wasn't hurt. I just hope that man spends the rest of his life in prison. A word of advice: always do a background check if you're in a position of hiring or firing people, such as a position as manager. I made a very grave mistake, and it all happened because I didn't check this person's background before hiring him. And now I'm without a job, and I feel very guilty. I'm still suffering from the consequences of my action. This happened a couple of years ago. My manager was really on to me about hiring a Santa Claus, and I haven't
had the best of luck of hiring anyone. Each time I would try to hire someone, they never showed up. And it was already December the 1st. So eventually, word got out to my manager or my higher boss, and he gave me a phone call. And he asked me,
Devin, may I speak with you just for a moment?
Shit. Now he's gonna be on my ass about not hiring Santa Claus. Oh man, I wish you would understand. It's really hard running the store, I said to myself as I was making my way across the street to his office. When I got to his office, I sat down, and he said to me with a calm but stern voice,
Devin, what's going on? I thought I made this perfectly clear that we need to have a Santa Claus before Thanksgiving. It's already December 1st, and we don't have one, and you know the policies, Devin. We need to have the Santa Claus for Christmas and for the children. Now get to it and do not make me regret hiring you as a manager.
After he got done, he dismissed me, and I walked back to my office and I sat down. I looked up at the ceiling out of frustration with my eyes closed, rubbing the back of my neck, figuring out how was I going to hire a Santa Claus quickly. I began putting in an ad for an application of becoming a Santa Claus, and I let them know that it was seasonal. After about a couple of hours, I had about 5 applications completed, but one stood out the most. It was this guy. Let's just say his name was Richard. I called him up and asked him how quick could he come to do an interview, and he told me he could come today and that he would be there in about 30 minutes. I hanged up, and I was a little bit relieved. I didn't have to worry about my manager getting on to me. 30 minutes had passed, the guy came in. I sat down with him, and we had the interview. Everything was alright, but I couldn't help but to have this feeling, an unease about this man. But regardless, I hired him anyway, and without doing a background check, because I knew the background check was going to take about 2 weeks and a half. And plus, my manager wanted a Santa Claus quickly. So I told him he got the job, and he was happy. I told him to come back tomorrow to start his official day on the job as Saint Nick. The next day, he started his job, and he was already a pro. There was a long line of kids greeting Santa Claus, and smiles grew on the children's face. This man was good. Seeing the kids leave after meeting with Santa Claus with a big smile on their face. As I was walking back to my office, I ran into my manager. And, for once, he actually gave me a compliment. He told me,
You know, I gotta hand it to you, Devin. That's impressive. 24 hours after our conversation, you managed to hire a Santa Claus? That's the type of work I want to see from you around here.
Appreciate the compliment, sir, and I will continue to do better, I replied. After that, I sat down and began to focus on my other tasks, because now that I hired a Santa Claus, I can worry about the other problems that I got to take care of. A couple of days had passed, and everything was going all right. But 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my office, and something horrifying happened. As I was sitting down in my office completing my last task, I began to hear a bunch of screaming and yelling. It sounded like the crowd was running away from something. I got up to go see what the noise was coming from. When I opened my office door, I saw a whole bunch of people running. They were running towards the exit to get out of the mall. I saw the horrors on their faces. I saw a lot of them crying. I even saw a few people throwing up. I was wondering what was going on, so I ran in the opposite direction, seeing where everyone was coming from. I ran into the middle of the center of the mall, and there, the Santa Claus that I hired was pinned down by a few customers holding him back. And then I turned and I saw a horrific sight. There was a little girl who looked like she was stabbed to death. Matter of fact, It was actually more gruesome than what I'm telling you, but I can't really tell you or get into the details of how gruesome it was. But let's just say it was so traumatizing that it made me want to get sick right then and there. I was in shock. I can hear the man, the Santa Claus that I hired, say,
I'm sick of these damn kids. I'm sick of them sitting on my lap, puking, crying. I'm so done with this. I fucking hate kids. I want to kill more. I need to kill more.
I was in shock. I could not believe what I was seeing. I couldn't even believe what I'm seeing is real. This man, who I hired as Santa Claus to help kids get into the spirit of Christmas, just murdered a little girl in the store in front of a bunch of people. I was horrified. I didn't even think this guy was capable of that. After that, the mall shut down for several weeks. And after that, my boss called me in for an emergency meeting. And he told me that the guy that I hired was at a mental hospital. Apparently, he's had a history of lashing out at people, especially kids. This guy was a predator. And what was even more worse is, I didn't even do a background check on this guy because I was in such a rush to get someone out there just to keep my boss satisfied. But after everything that happened, my boss laid into me hard.
What the hell, Devin? Looks like you should have done a better background check. Why would you go out and hire a Santa Claus without checking their background? This is clearly your fault. You're done. You're terminated. Give me your badge.
He continued to say,
We have a whole bunch of lawsuits because you fucked up and you didn't do your job properly. I can't have you working around here. I hope this store could even recover after the mess you just made. Get out of my face. I never want to see you ever again.
And just like that, I was let go of my position as a manager. It hurted really bad, but I knew no one was to blame but me. I should have done a better job in checking his background. This would have never had happened. 3 years had passed since that incident, and I can't even think about going back to work again. I've been going to therapy, but it hasn't been helping me that much. I really made a fatal mistake. I should have done the background check and just had him wait a couple of more weeks until I got done checking his background. Now, because of my fatal mistake, a little girl lost her life. The parents of that deceased little girl solely holds me responsible for her death, and I don't blame them. If you're a manager and you have a position of hiring people, don't make the same mistake that I did. Always do a background check, so nothing like this won't happen ever again. Every time I mention the experience I had at this hotel, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. Let me explain to you what happened. It was on a day I was going to visit my parents. My parents live in Alabama, and I lived in Texas. So I decided to take a road trip to go to Alabama. As I was going, I noticed I started to not feel too well. I've been driving for about 7 hours, and I noticed I couldn't keep my eyes open. And I still had about 13 more hours to go until I make it to Alabama to visit my parents. But as I was driving, thinking that I may have to pull over, I saw a hotel. The name of the hotel was ironically called Stay the Night Hotel. I parked in the parking lot and I got out of my car and I walked inside of the hotel looking for a receptionist to give me a room for the night. When I ring the bell, a short, chubby man who was bald-headed, looked to be about in his mid-50s, came to the desk and he asked me,
Hello, sir. How can I help you? Are you looking to purchase a room?
Yeah, actually I am. I'm looking to purchase a room just for tonight. I was, making my way to Alabama, but I got a little sleepy. I don't think I got enough sleep last night, so I'm trying to catch up on some. Do you have a room available, sir? I asked the man. He replied in a cheerful manner.
Well, of course, my friend, but I only have one room available, and it is our smallest room. It's gonna be all the way in the corner. It's gonna be A13.
Great, I'll take anything. Just give me the price and I'll be on my way. After I paid for my hotel room, I grabbed my bag and I went inside my room that I was going to be using for tonight. The receptionist was telling the truth. The room was pretty small. But other than that, it wasn't too bad. It was a nice queen-size bed, a nice clean bathroom, and I feel like I can get used to this for the night. I took my bath, I cleaned up after myself, and I went off to sleep. But not 2 hours into my sleep, I heard a weird sound. It sounded like hissing, multiple hissing. It sounded like a snake. I freaked out and I got up to look around. I didn't see anything that indicated there was a snake. I looked under my bed. I pulled the covers back, but I didn't see any snakes. I heard the hissing again, but this time it sounded like multiple hissings. It sounded like multiple snakes were around me, but I couldn't tell where it was coming from. Great, I guess I'm not gonna get any sleep tonight. What a waste of money, I said in an irritated manner, tired and groggy and just wanted to fall asleep. I went to the receptionist, but I didn't see him anywhere. I wanted to complain to him about the noise I was hearing, but I could not find him anywhere. So I decided to go back into my room. When I went back into my room, I noticed that I didn't hear the noise again, and I figured I can finally get some sleep because I had to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was already getting ready to be 3:30 in the morning, which means that I only have about 3.5 hours to sleep. So I got back into the bed, pulled over the covers, and tried to get some sleep. 5 minutes didn't even pass before I heard it again. I kept on hearing those hissing noises, and it sounded like it was coming from everywhere. Then I noticed something that I didn't notice when I first came into this room. I noticed there was a large hole in the corner of the ceiling by the curtains. And what I saw next made me jump out of my skin. I cut on the lamp and I saw a whole bunch of snakes dropping down from the ceiling onto the carpet of my room. Not only that, but I felt something wet and slimy circling around my legs. I pulled the covers back and I saw a bunch of snakes rolling around in the bed. They were all over my legs. There was even baby snakes that got inside of my pants. I freaked out. I yelled really loud because I was petrified. And I guess I yelled loud enough because I heard my door being unlocked, and it was the desk receptionist. He looked at me and then he saw all the snakes, but his expression was not shocked or surprised. He actually laughed. Then he told me,
Ah, I see that you met my pet snakes. I have about 500 of them. Don't be alarmed, they're not gonna hurt you. They're non-poisonous snakes. I think they just want to sleep with you tonight.
I looked at the man, pissed off. I grabbed my small bag and I ran out of my room. I ran towards the receptionist's desk and I yelled at him. and I demanded him to give me a refund. And I told him that this was unsafe, but the man didn't want to give me a refund. I told him again that he owed me a refund, and then he did something that freaked me out even more. He said,
Okay, I'll give you your refund. With this pet snake!
I yelled again, and then I cussed him out. You know what? Fuck you, you fucking weirdo. I gave up on asking for a refund. Instead, I just hopped in my car and drove off. After all that encounter, I wasn't tired anymore, but I was still creeped out. I don't think you understand. It's just having a bunch of snakes slithering all over your body and under your clothes. It's just a feeling that I don't think no one should ever have to go through. I don't know what was up with that man. It's just weird. That had to be one of the most weirdest and creepiest and insane encounters and experience I've ever had. I'm very careful about where I go next time. I figure I'd just drive the rest of the way. I wasn't that far from my parents' place anyway, and I was able to make it in time. I never mentioned to anyone about this experience because I feel like no one would really take me serious. But I'm never going to go back to that hotel again. My name is Jackson, and I would do anything for my wife Isabel. Even though she's not fully human, she's part creature, and she's been living for 2,000 years. I met her when I was 19 years old, and I immediately fell in love, and I knew who she was right away. She's a creature that has to eat off of newborn babies to keep her youthful look. And tonight, I'm looking for a pregnant woman my wife could smell. From what she told me, this pregnant woman is not too far away. As I was driving, it began to thunder. But I still kept on driving because I was determined to make my wife happy, and she needed a baby born right out of a womb of a woman's stomach to keep her youthful look. So I kept on searching. It began to rain. As it rained, I noticed there was a woman who was in distress, and she was pregnant. I pulled over, making myself seem like I was a good Samaritan, getting ready to help her. As I got out of the car, it started to rain and thunder. I walked it over to the woman, and I can tell she was in a great deal of pain. So I asked her, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you okay? Is something wrong with your baby? Can I assist you? Do you need me to help you with anything?" She replied,
"Please, sir. It's raining outside. I think I'm about to have birth. You're a doctor. You can help me. Please, help me."
She was right. I am a doctor, and I've done this many times before. But what she doesn't understand is I have more sinister motives. So I acted like I was a good Samaritan and a good doctor, and I told her to get inside my car. Once she got inside my car, I asked her, "So, can you tell me your name and how old are you? I have to ask this for a reason. I hope you understand, but I'm gonna get you some help. Just hold on." She responded,
Wait, what? My name is Melissa. I'm 24 years old. I feel like I'm about to give birth.
I reassured her that everything was going to be okay. I told her to close her eyes. But while she was closing her eyes, I grabbed a syringe and I sticked it in her arms. She had no time to react. She passed out. And I said to myself, yes, you finally passed out. Now you're ready for my wife to devour your baby. She's gonna be so happy when she sees you. 15 minutes had passed since Melissa passed out, and I was able to make it to me and my wife's mansion. I got out of the car and I dragged a unconscious Melissa. I took her in the house and I dragged her all the way down into the basement. There, I was met with my wife, who was already drooling at the sight of this pregnant woman, and she was already in her human creature hybrid form. Her eyes were black and her teeth were razor sharp. She was licking her tongue, and then she said to me,
"Oh my God, she's so beautiful. Look at that beautiful baby bump."
I hope you're satisfied, dear. I can tell you right now, her baby is gonna keep you satisfied for the next 100 years. Like I always say, I'd do anything for you, dear. I told her that. She had told me to lay her down on the operating table, and so I did. Then she said,
"Now cut open her stomach, Jackson, so I can devour her baby."
"Yes, my love, anything for you, dear," I told her. So I grabbed the knife. It was a long knife, and I put it towards Melissa's belly. As I was about to cut open her stomach, all of a sudden, she woke up, and her eyes widened, and she looked around everywhere, but she was tied up, and she said,
Wait, what are you doing to me? Stop! Don't hurt my baby.
Then my wife said,
"Oh, you weren't supposed to wake up. I'm still gonna eat your baby, just to keep my youthful look. It looks like I'm gonna have to kill you as well."
Then my wife asked me,
"Honey, would you do the honors of killing her for me?"
"Anything for you, dear." And before the pregnant woman named Melissa had any time to react, I stabbed her. I stabbed her in her head multiple times. I caught her off guard, and she was dead right then and there. After I got done stabbing Melissa multiple times, I cut open her stomach, and I grabbed the baby out for my wife to devour. As my wife was eating the baby, I can hear her demonic growl. With blood on her face, after she got done eating, she told me,
"Dispose of her body for my dear Jackson."
and I obeyed her because I'd do anything for you, my dear. There was a huge blizzard. It was so strong that it knocked my power out. I lived by myself in a 2-story house that was given to me by my parents in their will after they passed away. As I was trying to get a backup generator going, I heard some noises on top of the roof of my house. Now, the noise was not really noticeable. As a matter of fact, if the power hadn't went out, I probably would have never noticed it. But the house was dead silent since the power was out. and I was able to hear it. It sounded like footsteps, like someone was walking around on the top of my roof. So I decided to put on my coat and go outside in the very frigid weather to see what was going on. When I went outside, I remembered the snowflakes and the wind hitting me all at once. It was really cold out there, and I wanted to make this quick as possible. So when I went outside and stand on my front yard, I looked it up, and at first I didn't see anything. So I chalked it up as maybe it was just my imaginations. After that, I got back inside to get out of the freezing weather. I found some firewood and I placed them in the fireplace to start a fire to keep my house a little bit warm since I had no power. As I was getting ready to head back to bed, I noticed I heard some noises on my roof again, but this time it wasn't footsteps. It was more like running and hopping around. I got a bit freaked out because the first time I heard it, I thought it was in my imaginations, but this time I heard it again. And I know for sure that this wasn't a fragment of my imaginations. I grabbed my coat once again, and I took a trip outside. When I got out there, I immediately looked on top of the roof, expecting not to see anything. But when I looked up, I saw something terrifying. Something that gave me chills. Something that really left me shaken up. On top of the roof, it wasn't a human and it wasn't an animal. It was some kind of, I like to describe it as some kind of demonic creature. It was black all over, and it had long horns curving inward. Its eyes were bloodshot red. It had wings. It was growling and laughing. I immediately ran back into my house, found my cross, and found my Holy Bible, and I began to pray really hard. As I was praying, I can hear someone walking around in my house. I knew it was that creature, but I paid no mind, and I kept on praying. I kept praying, but still, I can hear that creature getting closer to me. I kept praying again, and this time, I could feel the creature in my room. I can feel its hot breath on the back of my neck, and I can feel its paw on my back. But I didn't let that stop me from praying. I kept on praying until I didn't feel its presence anymore. So I slowly opened my eyes and I turned around, and it was gone. A couple of days had passed, and I haven't seen or heard that creature again. But little did I know that this was going to be the beginning of something even more sinister that was going to be happening to me and my household. Don't ever accept strange gifts from people you don't know. I'm giving you a warning. Don't make the same mistake that I made. This happened a year ago. I was at home recovering from COVID. I heard a knock at my door. I went to see who it was. It was an older woman. I opened the door and she told me that she was dying and she had no other relatives, and she wanted to give this box to someone. She figured she would just take a chance by knocking on a random door and giving it to someone. She thought that it would be perfect for me. Now at the time, I thought this was kind of odd, but when I looked at the box, it looked really nice. I could tell it was expensive, so I asked her how much you want for it, and she told me it was free. She gave it to me, and she went on. Before I can ask any questions, she disappeared. I didn't see where she went. Matter of fact, I never saw a car. That was some warning signs that I ignored. But anyway, I took the box in the house and I looked at it. I noticed there was some writing on it. It said, "Do not open by any means necessary." I was confused and wondering why I couldn't open this box. Being curious, instead of taking heed to the warning that was written on the box, I opened it anyway. Stupid of me. I didn't see nothing in the box, so I closed it. But what I didn't realize was I just released a sinister spirit in my house. Later that night, I was off to sleep. I had to go to work early in the morning. I was sleeping okay until I heard a lot of commotion down in my kitchen. It sounded like dishes were breaking and doors were being closed and opened across the house. I got up and I grabbed a baseball bat and I ran downstairs. When I went into my kitchen, I noticed I saw a bunch of broken plates everywhere. But it got worse. Immediately, while I was trying to assess what was going on, my kitchen drawers opened and a bunch of knives were flying towards me. They barely missed me, but they hit up against the walls in the kitchen. I immediately ran into my room and locked my door. As I was figuring out what should I do, I heard a demonic scream coming from in the kitchen. I wasted no time. I opened my window and I hopped out of there and I grabbed my phone and I called 911. When the cops came, I told them everything. I even told them about the screaming, but I didn't tell them that it sounded demonic. I just told them it sounded like a crazy person that broke into my house and was rampaging in my kitchen. The officers looked around and investigated what happened, and they told me that it didn't look like anyone broken in, and it didn't seem like there was someone that was living in my house that I was unaware of. So this case remained unsolved. But I knew what was really going on. It was that box. I unleashed something demonic from that box. After the cops left, I grabbed that box that was given to me and I found an expert who knows how to trap spirits. And they were able to help me trap that spirit back into the box. After that, I sold that box on eBay and I was able to find someone who wanted it. So I packed it up and shipped it out. And that was the last I've seen of that box. Since then, I haven't experienced anything paranormal and my life was back to normal. Let this be a lesson. Don't accept strange gifts from people you don't know. I received a box from eBay. From what the seller told me, it's supposed to carry supernatural entities. But I didn't believe in none of that stuff. I wanted the box because it looked nice. And I wanted the box so I can store collectible items inside of it. It was a pretty big box. But I should have taken heed to the seller's warning and not opened the box. Because when I did, I let something out. Something very sinister. But at the time, I didn't notice. And I just stored all my collectible items inside this box. Now, after I got done, I put the box up in the attic. I moved it into the corner. Couple of days later, that's when I started to experience strange phenomenons in my house. On 3 occasions during the short month I kept the box. The first time I experienced something, I was downstairs making my dinner, and I stopped what I was doing because I heard movement in my attic. It sounded like someone was walking around moving things. Also, I want to clarify something. I live by myself. No one lives with me. So, when I heard all of the commotion upstairs in the attic, I slowly walked it upstairs. And when I got upstairs, I pulled the attic down. And I slowly went up into the attic. I cut on the light, and I was in shock. It looked like a tornado rampaged in my attic. Stuff was flipped and tossed everywhere. My second experience happened when I was getting up early in the morning, getting ready for work. While I was brushing my teeth, I heard a noise coming up the stairs. It sounded like giant footsteps, and they kept on going up and down the stairs, back and forth, what felt like 10 minutes. I was hesitant to go and check it out because I was starting to get scared. But I built up enough courage, and I opened up the bathroom door, and I stared out at the stairway. And what I saw almost made me shit my pants. There, looking back at me, was a goat-like creature. It looked like a human goat-like creature, or a humanoid goat-like creature. I don't know, I couldn't really explain it, but it looked like a goat. It must have noticed me staring at it because it disappeared very quickly. The hairs on my body stood up, and it felt like I was inside of a freezer. Chills was running down my body. I slowly made my way towards the stairway, and I didn't see anything. But that experience left me shaken up. So I went back into the bathroom and finished brushing my teeth. After I got done brushing my teeth, I hopped in the shower. As I was showering, I heard something that sounded like heavy breath. But it didn't sound like it was coming from a human. But I quickly pulled back the shower curtain, but I didn't see anything. And I went back to showering. After I turned off the shower, I stepped out of the shower to dry off. As I was drying off, I felt something wet and slimy dripped on my back. It dripped on my back about 3 times. I stood still for a moment, and I had the urge to look up. When I looked up in the ceiling, I saw that same goat-like creature on top of the ceiling. Before I had time to react, the creature growled and jumped on top of me. I let out a quick yelp before smashing my head on the bathroom counter. The last thing I remember was blacking out. When I woke up, I had a nasty cut on my head. I looked at the time, and only about 15 minutes had passed, so I was guessing I was out for 15 minutes. I knew I wasn't going to make it to work, so I called out. I didn't see that creature anywhere, so I was assuming that it was gone. But I was shaken up by it. The last experience I had, and the final one happened a couple of days after the second experience in the bathroom. I was sleeping, and it was around 3:00 a.m. All of a sudden, I jerked out of my bed. I don't know why, but I felt uneased. It felt like someone else was in my room. It felt like there was a dark presence, an unnatural presence in my room. I looked around and I didn't see nothing at first. Then I heard that same demonic growl. And I looked around again and I saw bright orange eyes glowing, staring at me. Then I heard this creature get down on all fours and start crawling on the floor, making its way up to my bed. I was struck with fear. I couldn't even move. I was frozen. The creature made its way close to me on top of my bed, closer and closer until it got to my face. I can feel its hot breath on me. Then it let out a horrifying growl. This time I built up enough courage to yell. And after that, the creature disappeared. But I was already shaken up to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. So the next morning, I got that box and I sold it on eBay. Now you're probably wondering, why didn't I just throw the box out? Well, I tried that, but every time I would throw the box out, somehow it would reappear in my house. So I decided to sell it on eBay with the same warning I got when I bought it. I didn't really believe in the paranormal or the supernatural, but after this experience, I certainly did now. Luckily, someone bought the box, so I shipped it out. After that, I got a priest to bless my house. Since then, I haven't experienced anything weird or strange, but I'm very careful now. I just pray the new owner who gets this box takes heed to the warning I sent to them. The person who got the box was somebody who went by the name of Lorraine Warren.